Okay, so this is my spoiler review of the Umbrella Academy Season 2. I'm going to break down every episode with all my thoughts on it. It's going to be a big review here. Now, here's a disclaimer before I jump into this season review. I was not a fan of Umbrella Academy Season 1. I was actually really turned off by it and super disappointed. I want to just say that because it's going to make you understand how shocked and surprised at my thoughts and feelings on this season and what I liked so much better about this season. So episode 1 really starts with a bang right away. I mean, we jump in with each of our characters here in different years, and it's centered again through 5, but we get these really awesome action sequences, and especially seeing the Russians attacking America here, and they're all using their superpowers. Literally in this one sequence, we're seeing them use their superpowers almost more than all of last season, which was something I really was frustrated with season 1, where it's a superhero show and you're waiting and waiting to see what they do. At points you're forgetting what they even do as their power, but this season they fixed that and they really ramped up the action. And I love every character is freshened up here with a fresh story, but still connecting to arcs that were built in season 1. I particularly love they gave Ellen Page more screen time in season 2. Again, another complaint about season 1 was, this is your star, this is the best actress on the show, use her. And they learned that here, and they let her really show her chops by having her character, interestingly enough, forget who she was and what was going on, which really worked well. And it works well because Vanya really is the Superman of the group, and that can be a problem with a lot of superhero stories of the big group, and one of them's ultra powerful. We see it all the time. And then you could just say, oh, why don't they just save everybody? But it grounds them. It grounds her that she forgot. So it's a good, justifiable reason why she's not just taking everything over. I like the angle at the end of this episode that they're all relating to 5 now and the struggles of time travel and feeling what he's always complained about and that feeling of not knowing what to do. Cringe song selection, though, with Diego here in the loony bin, and they play the acoustic version of Crazy by Gnarls Barkley. I always thought the music choices in season 1 were on the nose. This kept that formula going, but I think as the season went on, it went away from that, which I really appreciated. And we got some exciting characters introduced in these blonde henchmen, aka the Swedes. I love that one of them is a milkman. So episode 1, I would give an 8.1. Wasn't the best, but it was definitely improvement already over season 1. So episode 2 is where I got really more believing in this show. And I'm happy we got to see the handler survives because there's so much potential with her from last season. And she really takes over this season and shines. She is a master manipulator, and she is a big chess player against the other chess player in 5. I also love to see AJ, the goldfish man we saw in the trailer. He looks so cool. I just love the idea of that character of being a goldfish head. I actually just wish we had more of him this season. But I feel like his story isn't over, even though he's been eaten. I like that they had Luther run into Vanya first and him admitting his guilt of how they treated Vanya, and that they kept that strong theme from last season going into this season, all the way till the end of mistreatment of the one who they originally thought didn't have powers. Also, this new character of Lila, who is Diego's love interest, and much, much more as the season progresses. The actress here, Ritu Arya, is incredible. I was stunned how good she is, so that was exciting to watch in general and added some life to Diego's story. She also made Diego more likable, someone he's actually cares about, which he really, really needed, because I thought he was so hateable in season 1. And what just shocked me was having just 2 episodes with action in it, which really didn't happen much in season 1 at all. And they were not shying away here. It's great because the show was always promoted as a fun show, and it should be a blast to watch. And I just felt season 1 was so dull, but this season was actually doing that. They knew, look, like, we need more action. We need more superhero action. And they did that. They gave you something every episode with action. Pretty amazing how that just works. And I love it only enhanced the story and characters and suspense. And you see that here at the end of the episode where Diego and 5, really exciting sequence where they go to find their father and they see little Pogo, which was a surprise. And we get this really awesome duel between the dad and Diego with a crazy cliffhanger thinking Diego might be dead. So this episode for me went up. I give it an 8.5. So episode 3, I got worried again. I wasn't so hot about it. I didn't like that they had Diego just healed up by Lila and wasn't really continuing that exciting cliffhanger moment we had of, oh my god, is he dead? It kind of shows it a couple hours later. I'd like to just have jumped right where we left off, but so be it. I like, though, we start really touching base with Klaus and Ben here. I like the relationship they've always had together, and they really focused in on that and just add so much more weight to Ben's eventual death later on. And I also just want to say about Robert Sheehan, he's just a really interesting case with an actor where the first couple episodes of season 1, I thought he was pretty bad at acting, and then he got really good all of a sudden, and then this season I just think he's excellent. So you see that kind of progress, and he's really just, to me, the most likable character and a joy to watch. I think he's the one the audience just feels for the most, and there's a lot of credit due to the actor himself, Robert Sheehan. There was some awful editing here, an awful use of breaking the fourth wall when you're watching, where Allison actually sees Klaus and says, "I haven't used my powers since," and then it cuts to her when she used them on Vanya and actually shows us the clip. Come on. You can't do that. Like, especially in a story, you're in the moment with them, and then to cut for that reason, it's not a clever way where maybe you'd see Five do it later in the season, or it makes sense for his character to do it because he's explaining something to the audience, but that's just ridiculous. It's like throwing a recap into an episode. I hated that. It started also to feel like at some points, not towards the middle, but in the beginning of the story of the civil rights, it kind of felt like a lot of the Marvel shows did with superhero, where it's like they add in kind of this storyline that makes it more human and a cause they're going for, but it was really slow at first when they were just talking about postponing the sit-in, and it was like, come on, let's move it a little quicker. It does pay off, and I think it actually ended up being great, but the beginning of it was a little wonky to me, and I also really hate in scenes like this where there's a lot of background actors, when the background actors are way over the top. They do this a lot in The Walking Dead. I've always said it's a big complaint of mine. Look, everything on screen counts and extras count, and when they're all going like, yeah, or like really angry, but to the point where they're all just repeating the same actions in the background, they look kind of like just robots being told what to do. I hate that. So I wish directors would pay more attention to that and make it feel as real as possible. But in this episode, you get some of that payoff I'm talking about in this civil rights story, where it's really timely. It speaks to the times now with a really tough just segment to watch with the police brutality. But it was really cool to see Allison use her rumor ability here. And again, she uses it way more than she did all season 1, which is just awesome to watch. And it was a nice little touch here at the end with Luther self-sabotaging himself, letting himself get beat up basically almost to death, and then looking up at the moon, being overcrushed over Allison. And we get another solid cliffhanger, which this season is full of, which I was also shocked by. Every episode made you want to watch the next one, and that cliffhanger being that we learn as the audience that Lila's mother is the handler. But this one for me was a 7.8. It just didn't feel that groove that the first 2 episodes felt. So episode 4 is one of the standout episodes of the season for me. This was the Majestic 12 episode. I love this reveal how Handler was the one who got Lila and ordered the kill of her parents. I love how this episode was really the first one that gave the Handler a lot of screen time this season and embraced her character and how great it is. And they really made this interesting relationship between Lila and Handler, and they didn't have Lila just be some crazy chick love interest for Diego. They made her character so much more, which was really a surprise and awesome. I love some humor here, especially with Klaus, usually with Klaus, and he says, though, to comfort Allison, a story about a scorpion and a frog, and she's just like, what was the point of the story? He's like, I have no idea. And again, thematically worked well here, where Klaus sees his lover, Dave, who he's trying to prevent from joining the war. His uncle hits him, calls him a queer, and it just, you feel the pain for Klaus, and it makes sense then why he would relapse right after. And then we get some big stuff with Diego seeing the real version of his mother, and that's another reveal and twist. And like seeing little Pogo, it's cool to see that the mom was based off his real love. And then we get this moment that I hadn't felt this kind of feeling in Umbrella Academy yet. It happens here when Vanya lifts the water to save Harlan. Holy crap, was that awesome. It was the first time that I felt like this type of show was really hitting its true potential. And you see the budget they put into this Netflix. It looked great and was just really thrilling to watch. And it all leads to something. It leads to her resuscitating him and giving him her powers. And they made even Luther, maybe the least interesting character, super interesting this season and funnier. And I love the sequence where he's taking the nitrous with Elliot and they're just laughing, and it gets dark really quick, and he's like, my dad left me on the moon. And then we get what I'm talking about, another fun action sequence now with Diego and Five and the Swedes and Lila, and it's just craziness. And the show's really good at action sequences, and they don't rely too much on CGI. They blend it in well with giving us still a lot of hand-to-hand combat, which to me is the best. So this episode for me was an 8.8. Now episode 5 was another standout one for me. I'm gonna say that 4 and 5 were my 2 favorite episodes of the season. And evidently they're directed by the same person in Tom Verica. So there's something there that's a name to watch when you see his name pop up on any episodes of this show. Because for me, those episodes had the best rhythm and they stood out the most. We opened this episode with Pogo, and in 1962, and the CGI of him just looks absolutely amazing. I love the point of view shots we get of him looking at the mother, and you're just seeing more as the season goes on, which really works well. Is that we see here that Luther goes to see his dad, and his dad's an awful prick to him, saying he never wanted children, and we're learning more and more about the father through our main character's eyes as they do. And that was just so effective as the season went on. And here it really picks up pace because then 5 wants to get the band back together, and we get all the snarky talk back and forth between these main characters. I thought funniest moment maybe this season, and funniest running joke in general though, is having Ben always being ignored by the group because of Klaus, because he's not mentioning he's there. And they ask about Ben, he's like, no, unfortunately ghosts can't time travel. And Ben's like, what? I thought that always worked great. Some really cool transitions and editing here is when Luther throws 5 to travel to Sheila. I love stuff like that. They really put in that extra effort. One of the weird moments though in this season was actually when they do get the band back together. 5 tells Diego and Luther to get Vanya. I felt like though there was a scene missing here. How did they get Vanya back to their place so easily? He tells him that, and then we see the next scene, she's on the couch. Meanwhile, she's got all this stuff going on at the farm and doesn't seem like she's ready to move yet, so that was strange. And they gave Klaus, again, some just really good lines, and speaks for the audience in a sense too, like acknowledging finally someone saying it, how it's kind of weird about Allison and Luther having a thing. And he gets this line where he says, the best relationship with this family was 5 banging that mannequin. That was so good. And we see how smart of a villain the handler is by basically setting up the Swedes with Diego's knife, and she booby traps one of them, and we get this really, again, awesome ending sequence of action. They keep doing it and it works. Definitely for a show like this. And you see Lila and 5 go head to head, which was awesome. And there's a nice touch here of a Swedish Adele Hello cover as the Swedes mourn one of their own. So this one was also an 8.8 for me. So episode 6 was really good in the sense it shows you now from Allison's point of view, like it did last episode, Luther's, of what really happened when they first landed and how tough it would be for a black person in 1961. So they don't sugarcoat it. They don't hide how it really would be. I think that was really smart by the creators and writers here. And you see the little details put in, like really getting you into the timeline of the 60s. And that's attributed to production design, costume design, but you see like little photos in the barbershop of Jackie Robinson, the music playing of Aretha Franklin. Again, you see effort here. And it gets juicy in the storyline where Handler is making offers now to 5. And that weird flirting going on between the Handler and 5, because Handler knows he's really an older man, I think is really funny and works well. But we see Allison now, she's showing her powers to Ray, but she's going a little power crazy here when she burns that guy's hand. But strangely, the wheels kind of slowed up a bit this episode, which is fine. Had to set a lot of the stage up, especially because it was leading up to this light supper sequence, which was with the father. More gold was when Allison says, I heard a rumor you punch yourself in the face to Diego. That was great. Sad we lost Elliot here to the Swedes. And it's a nice cliffhanger again that 5 agrees to this deal with the handler. This one was an 8.1 for me. So I'm going to take back what I just said about 4 and 5 being the best 2. They're the second best 2, if that makes any sense. The best episode is episode 7, because this is the first 9 I've ever given this show. We get a crazy opening right away with 5 assassinating the board of directors in 1982. What an awesome way for him to destroy AJ with the paddle, breaking the glass with the fish in it, but keeping the fish. I love how much gore they do in a TVMA show, also taking advantage of that, which I love. It was a brutal scene, and it was so great. Again, just to build tension in a ridiculous show like this, which makes it fun, is just the handler giving 5 the briefcase and like, okay, you have 90 minutes. Just having that clock effect of ticking come in really ramps everything up. And just humor with the handler here where she's telling the whole commission that the board's dead and she's taking over, but she used the megaphone too loud at first. And then she says if they want to talk to someone about it, the health insurance is out of network, so they don't cover it, which is great. And I love this Ben possessing Klaus to get a feeling of alive, all working towards the payoff of Ben's full-on death later on. So it's really touching. You just want to talk to that girl and experience all this. One of my favorite camera shots of the season was actually when the handler has now AJ in the fishbowl and she's looking in there and you see how they make her face look like a monster with the water. I thought that was really cool. And it's also hysterical. She's just talking to a fish. And I loved seeing now 5 and Vanya get tension here with him trying to tell her what to do again, because we're seeing the 2 most powerful in the group kind of butt heads here. And really good writing in this episode is when Allison's telling her husband she's got to go, but saying the movement's not even finished, even in 2019. Again, really timely and paid off well for all the set they had for the the civil rights movement story. And what's effective about this is Ray, her husband, saying, no, I don't want to forget, because I would take this year with you, remembering that, over a lifetime without you. And you see that happens later on with Sissy and Vanya. It's a great theme they had going this season because it shows you the effect this Umbrella Academy of misfits, of weirdos, has effect on normal people in a positive way. So it's just layered writing thematically, and it's really just, again, this is why I wanted you to hear I didn't like season 1, because it just impressed me what a turnaround it is for a show I didn't like. And then we get the Swedes fighting Allison, and these cool effects with Ben coming in and out of Klaus, and just super tense with the clock ticking, and they blow it. So, like I said, this was a 9 for me. Favorite episode of the season. So episode 8 and episode 9 is, I think, where they both were kind of just solid for me. I however thought the cinematography in this episode was the best, especially when Vanya was being tortured here. Like, absolutely ridiculous cinematography, so impressive on that front. I like the idea of 5 chasing after 5 and seeing older 5 here, adding this humor with the side effects. But I really do think the best parts of these episodes was the interrogations of Vanya and her remembering things, and kind of keeping that theme of her not remembering these traumatic things, but her also maybe choosing not to. So it's like her forcing to watch that in a really grim, dark way. So I'd give that episode an 8.5. Episode 9 had a really most touching moment. This is where the waterworks came out of my eyes for me, when Ben sacrifices himself for Vanya, and has a great monologue beforehand explaining why she needs to keep going on. And they have them in this like purgatory. It's the most heroic thing anyone's done in the show yet. So we get kind of a cliffhanger now for next season, where we see the dad takes off a mask and starts eating the Majestic 12. So we never got an answer on that, so that's really interesting. And this episode really now pushes this main focused timeline now about the handler setting up the kill on Lila's parents, but she framed it as AJ and really put all the blame on 5. This one will get an 8.7. And then episode 10 is interesting. It's a big finale. It feels almost like a Game of Thrones battle here, where you got the commission versus this team. I like that we got to see them again now as a team use their powers together. It was cool to see Diego hold those bullets. Vanya gets this huge moment now where she unleashes the beast in a way that's the right way, which was awesome. It's a very Dark Phoenix storyline for her this season. And I love the twist of Lila here, where she mirrors powers. I thought that was cool. However, maybe I'm wrong here, but it wasn't clear to me how long she knew she had these powers. Was she just hiding them the whole time? When did she find out? Again, felt like some scenes are missing here, and that was a little strange. I love the moment, though, where we almost lost Allison. She's like, I heard a rumor, and then she uses her rumor trick, but Lila shoots it back and says, you couldn't stop breathing. That was crazy. And they did a nice touch here, how Lila comes full circle, seeing that just like they are, the Umbrella Academy, they're victims of someone greedy who acts like a parent but really doesn't care for them and uses them. And that's shown really well through Diego's monologue to Lila about weirdness, family, love, all those themes. So he kind of wraps a bow on all the themes of the season real well. And even it was cool to see 5 using his father's voice, giving him wisdom here, to just go back a little in time, and he redoes everyone dying, basically. So it's cool. Lila actually pieces with Suitcase, so it leaves some room for her story next season. And Ellen Page, I mean, best acting of the season happens here when she says goodbye to Sissy. They let her really show her chops here. I'm not crazy about Harlan still having some power. I also thought it was strange when Vanya was explaining about Harlan to the group that she's tiptoeing constantly this season about knowing that he has her power. That was also kind of convenient for the script, and I don't like bringing that over, just this kid with a superpower, to next season, but maybe they don't even touch it. We'll see. I just didn't think it was necessary. So to get to 2019, the big cliffhanger for the season is that the dad's alive, the timeline's messed up, and young Ben is there with the Sparrow Academy. So the finale was really good. I'm giving that one an 8.8. As a whole, I would have given season 1 probably a 5.3, but this, I'm giving an 8.8. So in my memory of such a season 1 I didn't like, maybe it would be Parks and Rec into a step up of season 2 of Parks and Rec as an example of such a dramatic change for me, and like being completely shocked. I was so nervous when I got the screeners for the season, because I was like, how the hell am I going to get through this? I could not even bear to watch any more Umbrella Academy, and I was stunned. I was proven wrong, and I'm really happy I watched it and reviewed it. I think now the sky is the limit for season 3 of this show. As long as they don't hang too much now on time travel, you don't want that to wear out and get too messy and confusing. I haven't read the comics, so I don't know where the story goes, but I know, though, for a show, if they keep it that fun feeling, that escapism feeling, especially in times like this, and don't be afraid of action, and realize that if you just throw in a couple themes and keep the story interesting enough and a good villain, in a show like this, you'll be fine. And I think it just exploded and showed a lot of talent this cast really had that was kind of hindered last season. So let me know what you guys saw this season down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment and try to respond to as many as I can. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my reviews of TV shows, movies. I do celebrity interviews as well, so you don't want to miss any of those. And please follow me at SteveVarley1 on Twitter and Instagram for more of me. And I'll see you next time.